So one of the most important things that is so important about hiring an assistant is having this talk about how to, I call squash speech bubbles. One of the things that if you ever look at in a comedy strip, there's all these little speech bubbles, right? And they basically kind of say, like, one person says, "Hi, Bob," and the other person's like, "Hi, Jerry." And they have all these speech bubbles. And what I tell people is, if you want to be my assistant, you have to be able to squash the speech bubbles, because what's going to happen is I'm going to give you 50 items that I need to be done. And then what happens is at around 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, I'm laying in bed going, I wonder what happened. Let's pretend like I asked you that a dishwasher was broken and I needed you to call and get a repair on the dishwasher. So I basically tossed that ball to you, and then you took that ball and held it. So that is the worst absolute thing that you can do. I tell the story of my dad. When my dad died, my mom remarried and she married a guy named Verl. Well, Verl is the worst conversationalist you'll ever meet in your life. Literally, it's so hard having a conversation with him because you will literally say to him, you'll say, "Verl, how was your day?" And he's like, "Good." And you're like, "Well, how's work going?" He's like, "Fine." And you're like, "Well, how's, this or that?" And everything's like, he doesn't ever throw the ball back. So I said to him, I said, "Verl, having a conversation is like playing ping pong. I'm going to put the ball to you, and then you're going to toss the ball back to me. If you just say good, you're ending the conversation. And now I'm doing all the heavy lifting. So I'm going to tell you a story about a girl named Kendra Wilkinson Baskin. Basically was a Playboy model, and she did a show, and she decided to hire an assistant. And on the show, she literally says this. She has a conversation with the assistant, and she says, "Listen, I need you to do this, this, and this." She says, "Did you remember to do this?" And she's like, "No, I forgot. I'll do that later." And then she's like, "Well, did you remember to do this?" And she's like, "Oh, no, I totally forgot." And she looks at her and she goes, "Am I your assistant or are you my assistant?" She's like, "All I do is sit here and remind you about what you need to do. I'm not your assistant. You're my assistant." So it goes back to both of those principles. One is the squash, the speech bubbles, and one is the ping pong ball has to go back into play. So if you're like Verl and you won't, throw the ball back, you just are an assistant that says, "Okay, I'll just take things, but I'm just holding the ball." You are going to be nightmareassistant.com. And so that happened to me actually this morning. I had a hard conversation with one of our admin. I asked them to do something and then I screwed up because I waited until about 45 minutes before I actually needed it. And they didn't do it anywhere near of what I needed it to be. I'm going to make 5 steps. I'm going to say, step 1, you give the task. Step 2, they do a right track check-in. Step 3 is continual updates. Step 4 is squash the speech bubbles. Step 5 is the daily dump. So the conversation looks like this with your admin. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to give you a task. Then once I give you that task, you're going to either, for example, let's say I need you to call and get quotes on doing the dishwasher broke. So I want 3 quotes on getting the dishwasher fixed or repaired or a new dishwasher. So step 2 on the right track check-in is, in that case, the admin would say, "Okay, what I'm hearing you say," they're repeating back to you what they say. "What I'm hearing you say is you want 3 different quotes You want to get a quote on what needs to be repaired or what needs to be done to get a new dishwasher. And I would say yes. Then number 3, you're going to do continual updates. You should have like a Slack channel. You should be using Slack. And there's one channel that literally says, okay, here's the daily task updates of what it is. The other thing is whatever the tasks need to go into a to-do list. You must have some kind of to-do list that you both have access to see, so you can see if it's been done or not. And then some kind of channel where they can say, hey, just so you know, I've called 3 different dishwasher places. Here's what happened, blah, blah, blah. And then they would call back. I've called 3 places. I've left messages. I'm going to now call, 3 more. And then that's where you have your continual updates. Step 4, you're going to squash the speech bubbles. Those bubbles that are on the cartoons, they have to tell you what's been done. And that's done by a daily dump. So they're going to, at the end of the day, there's going to be a place where they're going to do a daily dump that says, here's all the things that you gave me today. Here's where I am on everything. Here's what still doesn't have to be done. And we have created a system where it has a daily to-do list that you can have your admin put in, and they will actually check off what they've done, and anything they don't do that day, it actually automatically pops in for the next day. This is in our Canzel portal that we've created, and you guys can have an assistant have a portal where they can put in what their to-do lists are and put that in for the next day. Heather, give them another tip.
Yeah, so I think it's important because a lot of times when we have an idea of how we want something to look in our head, it is important to communicate that. But then the other step of that is having them repeat it back to you to make sure that they understand how you want it. So in that first step, when you give the task, you say exactly how you want it to look. I oftentimes may take just a couple extra minutes to draw it out or say, this is exactly, give a small template. This is what I want it to look like. Then I have them repeat it back to me. Then the next step, like she says, which is the right track check-in, is they should complete no more than 25% or 30 minutes worth of the task without sending you a, hey, this is where I've started. Am I on the right track? That way you're making those adjustments very early on, so that they don't complete an entire project and it was completely wrong and you've wasted 3 hours worth of work. So I always say, I want you to, this is a task, I'm giving it to you to start. Send it back once you worked on it for about 30 minutes and let me see if you're on the right track. And then they'll say, and I'll say, yeah, that's perfect, or no, I actually want it to look this way. I need it to kind of do that. Then they send it back to you for final review. And then from there, but the other part of that is like she says, is continually updating you. So like all throughout the day, if you're waiting on them to schedule a home inspector for you or any type of task you might have given them, if they continually just say, hey, I called and left a message, I'll call back again in an hour, and then you get another update, you can take that out of your mind to be able to free up your mental capacity on all the other decisions that you're making for the day. And then at the end of the day, if it still wasn't a task that was able to be completed, like the person just never called back or whatever, they're giving you a daily dump of, these are all the things that I completed. This is what I'm still waiting on. So that way, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't remember if you gave them this task or what the update was, you have it right there to look at. Because the more they can get out of your brain and just, like she said, squashing all those bubbles, okay, this is what was completed today. This is what's left. This is what they're going to work on first thing tomorrow to work on these things. You're able to at night give yourself a mental break, recharge for the next day. And those are really important steps. Is most of the time when you have something go wrong with a virtual assistant, there's a communication error on one side or the other. And you can squash all of those problems by, 1, giving clear instruction, having them repeat it back to you, 2, doing that are you on task check-in, and making sure they understood it properly. I think that that's really is just the key, is having them kind of do that. And then in the morning, the most productive time is in the morning. And so I always suggest, even with the person who has the executive assistant, is to block off that first part of the morning. And what we do is anything that we didn't finish on our to-do list from the day before goes into that calendar block in the notes section. So using the notes section when they're sending you reminders is very, very important, because now I can look at my calendar. Like in the morning, I've done all my stuff and now I'm ready to get into this. And we have a little calendar invite called process to dos. And in that notes section is anything that didn't get finished yesterday, we put on there. So they take that first kind of hour of the morning to try to power through anything that we didn't get finished yesterday before the day starts to get crazy. And that's really where that data dump at the end of the day is really important, because yes, we want to know everything that was accomplished. We also want to know what's on task for tomorrow. And you're able to kind of see that right first thing in the morning. It's right there. It pops up on your screen. It's 9 o'clock and here's your process to dos for the next 30 minutes. And you click on it and it's got the list is already in there. You don't have to go anywhere else. You want them to make it easy for you so that you can easily go to one place and look for what you need. And that's a great option for that, in addition to the Slack channels like she talked about.
So I'm going to have you share the screen, Heather, and go through all the different pieces of you creating. You have to create something called a cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Because one of the most important things is that if every time your assistant has to fill something out, then they are filling something out and then they have to ask you a question like, what is your social? What is your doctor's phone number? By the time they just keep interrupting you, asking you all these questions, you might as well have filled the daggone form yourself. So I'm giving you an example of something that I created, and I'm going to kind of show you all the different things that you need to have on your cheat sheet, number one. And then number two, I'm going to have Heather go over some different etiquette and some daily checklists that need to be done. So Heather, I'll have you review this whole sheet.
Yeah. So if you have a cheat sheet, and we'll kind of work backwards here. We're going to talk about, these are the things like that are important to you in your daily, like managing your calendar, managing your email, etc. So we'll go back to that in a minute. But I want to show you down here on the cheat sheet. So it has any important contact that you have. So like obviously your personal information, your social security number. If you have, someone else in your family that they might need it, their social security number, date of birth, address, even security questions. If you have them going in and renewing your license or doing different things like that, you typically probably select the same 3 security questions each time. You want to have those on there so they don't have to ask for what was the name of the street you lived on in high school. You just kind of put those in there if they're for whatever they might be doing for you. Then you want to put down as many important contacts as you can. Who do you bank with? Like if you're running your business, who does all of that? Who is your physician, like she said? Your insurance. So personal insurance, car insurance, E&O insurance. If you're managing properties, property management insurance, different things like that. Who is your accountant and tax contact? So if they need to send over a P&L for something, they know exactly where to go. For your software that you use, who are your contacts there? Your phone number, like your phone, your different things. Traveling, if they're booking your travel and you have TSA PreCheck, put those in there and specify how you want things done so that when they're booking something for you, they can grab your TSA PreCheck, they put it in there, and it's automatically made with your reservation. So as much information as you can think of, and as you work with them, something will come up that you haven't thought about, and you add it to the cheat sheet. Always, always add it to the cheat sheet so they don't ever have to ask you again. If you have to tell them more than once, it should be on the cheat sheet, and you need to just have it all on there.
I want to give you an acronym that I always say. I call it rinse and never repeat. So you know how people's like, oh, you need to rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. No, my slogan is it's rinse and never repeat. In my opinion, you should never, ever repeat yourself. I want to know that every new person I hire is going to know everything about what I do. And I want to be able to say it one time. I record it on either Loom or I record it on Zoom, one or the two. I record the session. I put it into an employee handbook. And then all new employees, once I say it one time, they have to go in it. They have to watch it before they jump on the team. And then again, I'm going to say rinse and never repeat. And then that is on video. So I don't have to repeat myself over and over and over again. Go ahead, Heather.
Yeah, and I think that's important, especially like taking a couple minutes to just record something and then having it saved is so important, because they may do that task once every 3 months, or they may do it once a month, and it's not something you do every day. So now they can quickly go back, look at the video, and you're not having to tell them it again. That's really important. And keeping it all in one place for them is really just key. It's going to help save so much of your time in doing that. So this is essentially the basics of virtual assistant checklist and kind of what you're looking for. Having them check your calendar each morning to see items and appointments that you have for the week. So this is what's most important, is at the end of each day, they should send you an email that says, these are your appointments for tomorrow. At 10, you have this person on this Zoom. At 11, you have this training at this time. So when you go to finish that day, you're like, okay, I have most of my days booked tomorrow, or tomorrow I have a pretty open day. Maybe I can call some clients. You'll be able to kind of know what tomorrow looks like. Then when they first come in the morning, they're going to resend that to you. Just a reminder, these are all the different meetings or events you need to attend today. Then they send you a text and an email reminder 30 minutes before and 15 minutes before, so you don't forget to get on it. I know we all get to working, and you're working, and I don't always see the calendar reminder pop up because I'm in the middle of working on the project. And so having somebody to text you, call you, email you, and make sure to remember to get on there is really important. And just setting up those, especially if you use Calendly. Calendly is great because you can set up your Calendly to automatically send text reminders and email reminders to the person, as well as email responses afterwards. So like say you have them book through a buyer consultation Calendly link, and they go through, it's going to remind them an hour beforehand. It'll remind them 10 minutes before the meeting. Then an hour after the meeting has ended, you can have an email that goes out to them that says, like, it was so great meeting with you, here's some of the resources I send all my buyers, and it automatically does a lot of things for you. Your admin can set this up for you. And so if they book your stuff through Calendly, which will connect to your calendar that you use, it automatically is going to do a lot of these follow-ups for you, and they can set that up for you to help with as much automation as possible. So having them help manage your calendar is huge. And you need to make sure you're blocking off time on your calendar for yourself, family, your health, as well as just blocking off time to grow yourself. With a lot of times we're trying to find, when we're trying to fill up time, you're looking for busy work, when actually if you have your admin handling your emails and doing different things like that time that now you're not having to spend on that, listening to a podcast about how to grow your business, listening to a podcast on how to grow your leadership, reading a book, listening to a book, taking notes, finding implementations on how you're going to do this better tomorrow. That's what you should be spending your time on, instead of responding to emails, deleting emails, unsubscribing from spam. That's things that people can be doing for you. So having them work in your calendar first. And also it's important to note, when setting up your calendar, having time blocks. So if you work better in time blocks, which a lot of people do, first thing in the morning might be you block off for nothing but follow-up. And that's when you do all of your follow-up. Then saying, okay, from 10 to 2 p.m., you don't ever have to ask me. You can book any clients for me during that time. It's open. It's all open for clients. I don't schedule anything else during that. And then from 3 to 4, you do your end of the day data dump, or 4 to 5, or whatever it might be. So if you block off your calendar for these things, they know exactly where to schedule stuff. They don't have to ask you. So calendar management is really big. Those are just some ideas of things they can do to help you. Email management is the second. So someone asked, should they give you your email password? Yes. If you have an assistant, you should trust them enough to get in your email. You teach them. If you get on with them and you spend a couple hours, you teach them how to do. So there's different folders. Here's an example you can do. Some people have like fewer, some people like more. What you do is you have them, when the email comes in, they should be touching all of your emails first. If it is junk, they delete it. They unsubscribe and they delete it. If it's something that they already know the response to because they've watched you respond to this and it's part of the canned responses, which we have on here on the cheat sheet later on, you'll see, then they can go ahead and respond to that. And then they file it in this responded to folder. So you can just go and click on the folder. Oh, that was perfect response. That was perfect response. Oh, I want to add something here. You're just checking it. It's already been taken care of. You move it out. Then there's going to be things that they just don't know the answer to. They need you to answer. That's where you put it in this one for you to review. It is best to do these together with your assistant. So each time you're reviewing them, you just block off a time, a couple times during the day where you jump on and you look, okay, these are the emails that you put for me to review. This is how I would respond to this one. Take it, put it in your canned responses. This is how I respond to this one. Take it, put it. You will notice that the amount of emails that you actually have to respond to really start to diminish once your virtual assistant learns how you answer things, because now the only things you're really going to have to respond to is something that directly pertains to you that they just have no idea. And then there's a folder. This is one of the most important folders, is what are you waiting on a response for? So if you've sent something out and you're like, say you're looking for the dishwashers and you've sent out all these emails, you're waiting on responses, you put them in there multiple times throughout the day, about every hour. You should be going in there and following up with those. That's how you make sure these tasks don't get lost in the sauce. So it's having them manage your email and putting them in these folders to review makes life so much easier. And it makes sure people are getting responded to. So if you're with a client, your virtual assistant's in there, they see something come through, they can go ahead and respond to that, and someone's not waiting on you. So yes, having them get in your email is really important. Teaching them how to respond to it is as well. Different other things you might be doing, like say you have social media and you want them helping with your social media management. Getting a schedule with them each week. Okay, every Monday you meet with them and you say, I want 3 videos posted every day, 2 business, 1 personal. These are where they come from. I want them scheduled at this time, this time, this time. And then I want you going in 3 times a day, checking for comments and liking people's comments and writing back to them too, and create engagement on my post. Or I want these boosted this week. So there's different things that they can do so that you're not having to manage that. So teaching them, getting them in your social media, telling them what you want posted. I want, a client one on this video on this day. I want a recruiting video on this day. And giving them a schedule really will help kind of take that off your plate as well. And you'll really only need to be in there for things that are absolutely necessary for you to do. If you do a podcast, this is give some ideas like, making sure the guests are sent out and how many new guests to invite, etc. So there's different things with that and different team email templates that are down there. It's a great way to get clients if you do want to ever podcast and get your name out there. Lead management. If you have a virtual assistant, they should be checking your CRM every hour for new leads, who's visiting your site. If they see, oh, this person just came on 5 minutes ago and they're searching on the site, shoot them a text. Hey, I saw you were on the site. Having them just looking for those most updated things. When an email comes in that a new lead has come in, having them contact them within 5 minutes. They're there, they're watching your email. They're able to contact them and try to get an appointment set with them for you. And then having something like this as an example. I want you to send 100 texts a day and set 2 appointments for me. These are type of things that you can be using your virtual assistant for to push your business forward, to schedule appointments for you, whether it's recruiting appointments, whether it's client appointments, getting them in your lead management system, your CRM, and helping you to be able to just create more business is some ideas as well. The biggest thing too is the great one is etiquette. So when you first are meeting with your assistant and setting things up, having them understand these things. And then this is a checklist they can look at each day. Do they have a proper Zoom background? Is it professional? If you don't want a branded one, something neutral, like something that looks professional. I always tell them, make sure you've logged in 5 minutes early. People are sometimes early and we don't want them just sitting there saying the host hasn't joined. Like get on there 5 minutes early. This also helps in case, like for instance, today, my Zoom wanted to do an update and it's all updated now. So when you click on that and you join the meeting right at the time, now you got to wait for an update to happen. So this ensures that there's no technical issues. Tell them to make sure they're working in a quiet place. Make sure they have noise canceling headphones on. Making sure they're in a place free of distraction. So, finding a place where they're not being distracted by all kinds of stuff going on around them. Have good lighting, proper wording. Making sure when they are running things through emails or text, their grammar and punctuations are correct. Run it through Grammarly. I'm having them use programs like that. And making sure they're dressed properly. I always say it doesn't, as long as it's from the waist up, on Zoom, but they do need to be dressed properly, and just making sure they have good email signatures and they're writing in your style. That's the other piece I talk about is in training a virtual assistant is what is the style of who you're working for. You may be with someone who's like, I don't want it super professional. I want it to be more casual. I want it to be more like not so stiff. Then that's how they should be writing for you, and just kind of teaching them how to kind of do that. And then just again, copying, pasting these canned responses. So if they see someone who, for instance, right then and what says, I saw your podcast and I'd love to be a guest on it. They come right here, they copy, paste, send it. Here's where you can book it. So just having this so they don't have to answer as many questions or ask you as many questions as they can answer on your behalf, just really makes your life easier. And this is what you want on that cheat sheet. You want kind of checklist items for them every day that you want them doing. You want canned responses, collecting as many as you can get, because that's going to help them answer you less questions. And then all of the personal information that you need to give them to be able to do their daily tasks. So that if they're filling out applications for you or filling out just different information, it's all right here and they have access to it in one document.
Okay, I want to talk about a few more things that you can get your assistant to do. And one of the things that you can have them help you with is your money. And so think about it. It's not what you make, but you have to act proportionate to what it is that you're making, right? And so, the first rule is pretty obvious, but you want to spend less than you make. And, Dave Ramsey likes to say, act your wage, right? And it's not your salary that makes you rich, it's your spending habits. And my mom used to say that too. It's not what you make, but it's what you keep, right? And so I think that everyone kind of starts off when they start making a little bit of money, they kind of are like carpe diem, seize the day, you only live once, and let's buy this and let's buy that. And you start making money and you don't put money aside for taxes and stuff like that. And so one of the things that you can have your assistant do in QuickBooks, a lot of times people have their assistant manage the money for their business, right? And so they do a good job of having them manage their business side of things. But you actually, for $10 a month, QuickBooks has added something where you can add a personal account. And so that's a really good thing to add, because that way you can say, okay, what am I spending a lot of money on? Because then your assistant can look at you and go, hey, you're spending a lot of money going out to eat. And those people, if you give them the ability to do that and say, I want you to hold me accountable because I am spending too much money on this or that. I want to just maybe go out to eat twice a week or something like that. You have another person that can kind of come to you. And if you give them the ability to do that, say, listen, I need help with this because I'm spending too much money on clothes. And I only want to buy one new, outfit per month or whatever it is that you've decided you can do. You can get your assistant to hold you accountable for things like that. And so it's really, really a great thing for you to give them ability to do it and have them add. And with a virtual assistant, I mean, I will tell you, our virtual assistants, no joke, okay? One of our admin, Maria, does a better job with our accounting than we had a 20-year, literally 20-year girl that was a full-on CPA that used to do our bookkeeping for us. And I'm telling you, ask Heather, Maria does 10 times better of a job. And so in your mind, if you think, I can't have a virtual assistant do my accounting for me, again, that is a mindset issue that you have to get rid of and go, yes, you can. I promise you can do a better job than some of these people who are charging $100 an hour as well. So like in business, your personal life should have its own profit and loss statement. And I know that's really weird for people to think about, but that if you have your family affairs in the accounting software, you will do a better job at managing your money and you'll actually be able to make more money. And most people are just too loosey-goosey on their personal financials, and they'll never have the rigor and the maturity to be able to grow in their personal net worth. And instead of putting their money on dumb stuff, you can now start putting your money into rental properties that are going to bring you assets or other things that are going to help you grow your net worth instead of just willy-nilly, losing that money. And then I have one more last thing that I want to talk about. It's once you get to the place where you're hiring multiple admin, one of the things that you have to be very, very careful of is that the word will get out, okay, that you've done it. So you have to be fair. Otherwise, what will happen is you will create animosity. And so I'll give you a perfect example of something that happened to us. So we had an admin, and this is when we were working in an office. Now, obviously, everyone works from home. We're all remote, so we don't have this anymore. But one of our admin would call and she'd say, I'm going to be 5 or 10 minutes late. I'm so sorry, but I have to stop and get air in my tires. I didn't realize it, but the pressure's so low, I have to get air. And she did this for about 3 weeks in a row, maybe. And she'd be like, a couple days later, she'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to be 10 minutes late. I got to get air in my tires. So she just kept saying that over and over again. And we were like, maybe it's time for you to get new tires. And she was like, I really want to, but the car that I have, each tire is like, I can't remember, $800 or something like that per tire. And she needed tires in all four. And she said, I don't have the money for that. So I looked at Heather and I said, we just need to buy her some tires. Like, this is ridiculous. Poor thing doesn't even have any tires. We've got to do that. So, and we said, don't, tell the world, but we're buying you tires. So we buy the girls some tires. And I'm not lying to you when I tell you, of course, she tells everyone, oh my gosh, we have the best bosses ever. We're like, please keep this on the down low, blah, blah, blah. She's like, I think she even posted it on Facebook. Like, I have the best bosses ever. I needed new tires and they paid for all 4 new tires to be put on. So then, no joke, the very next day, the other admin calls and says, I'm going to be late for work because I need to put air in my tires because I don't have the money to put air in my tires. And so, I looked at Heather and said, okay, no, we're not going to do this again because, and then by the time you know it, we're buying, everybody in the company is getting brand new tires, right? Because word goes around fast. And so what we have done is we've created a 501(c), and we have something called CR Cares. And so we do want to help people, right? Like, we have a heart for helping people and we want to help people in that position. So when that happens, we now are able, we have a board of people on this board, and we do keep it very confidential, but people can apply for things in that on CR Cares, and then it's all kept confidential. It's not just me making the decision or, someone else. It's a board of people, and everyone decides, hey, is this the right thing for us to do? We have a certain money that we can give every single month that we can give on helping people. Is this, a worthy cause to do that? So what would you say the moral of that story is, Heather?
Well, the moral of the story is no good deed goes unpunished, but
Yes,
yeah,
that is it.
but at the same time, we are very giving people, and as humans, like, you do want to help. Yeah, I just think that just know what you do for one, you have to do for others. So just be prepared in what you're offering, that
Yeah,
you
that's
want
it.
to be
What you do
conservative
for
in that.
one, it's
Yeah.
what you do. That's a good one. It's what you do for one, you will have to do for others. So if you're not prepared to do it, then I know a friend who is a CEO, and he actually ended up buying somebody a used car because their car was in such bad shape. He ended up buying a car. Well, then again, what happens is the next guy's like, well, why didn't you buy me a car? Like, I'm a good employee too. I've been here for 20 years. It just, you open up Pandora's box. And so you just have to say, if I'm doing this for one, I'm going to have to do it for multiple, and I don't want to create that animosity. And the best way to do it is to create something that it's a board of people who are making decisions, and there has to be a vetting process that has to go to bat. Because, like, for example, with CR Cares, the way it works now is that board, you have to show your financial statements, I think, for 6 months. So like, if someone says, I can't afford to buy new tires, well, the board is going to look at your financial statement for the last 6 months and say, okay, well, it looks right here, you went skiing and you went to Tahiti and you went to the Bahamas, and that's why you have no money for tires, because you are doing a world tour right now, right? But I'm saying that's part of the vetting process to be able to do that. And then I want to give one more tip on here right now about agents on your team when you have team members that you bring on board. What I have seen has been the biggest problem of people bringing team members on board is that they basically, and Heather, I'm going to have you expand on this as much as you can. So what happens is the team leader buys all these leads. Let's say they do radio ads or TV or Zillow or whatever platform they decide to use to bring in all these leads. And then they bring on a team member that's with them for 6 to 8 months, and then they hand them leads. And then they start getting business and they get referrals from that. And then maybe you on your team, let's say you're on a 70-30 split with them. And every time you give them a lead, it's a 35% referral. Well, what happens is after they get a bunch of business, they go, oh, well, I've got enough personal sphere now that I can go out on my own and I can go to another company and, after a little bit, get 100% split. So I don't need you anymore. So then you've given all these people and some of your like close people to them. And now they're taking those people with them because they now are building that relationship. You then have this attitude of like, I don't want to do that anymore. So Heather, expand on that.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that in business, there's going to be things that happen. Like nobody stays somewhere forever, or you will have situations where you're like, I'm not doing that again. I'm going to keep it close to me because you're like guarding yourself. Chantel always says, just don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So just because one person or a couple people it might have happened to doesn't mean you should stop doing it altogether or limit it. If you really want to grow your business and the team is the way to do that, then you just have to understand that I caution team leaders in this and giving them like all of their leads as 100% of their business, because that is where you get somebody really productive and going, and they forget that the reason that they are successful is because you bought all of these leads and that's what they closed. So I think just also creating some systems and processes where it's like, okay, I'm going to give you a few, but at the same time I'm also going to teach you how to grow your business. So you're giving them just enough that they want to stay with you, but you're also are helping them grow their own business, and they don't think, oh, I can do all of this without it. So a lot of times, agents are like, oh, I'm super successful, I closed 50 houses last year, and we'll say, awesome, where did you close them from? And they'll give us some referral program. And at the end of the day, if they come to us and we don't have that referral program, they're going to close 0 houses because they really didn't know anything. So a lot of times they think, oh, I'm successful now, I can go do this. And I think it's just important to set, policies and procedures up for team leaders that when they are giving leads out, you can't take this lead with you for a certain amount of time. It has to stay here. If they ever go under contract or contact you outside of me within that amount of time, I'm owed this much of a referral. And just creating just some policies and procedures there so people know if they leave, they either can't contact your leads that you gave them, or if they do, they're paying you a pretty hefty referral fee to close that business. So it's just don't give it all up, because you will have people that are going to think they're successful and they're going to leave.
Well,
Just
and then I
creating
want to
policies
make
and
one more
procedures in it.
point. So the best thing for you to do is to not make it where you say, well, if you take my leads, I'm going to take you to court. No, do not do that, because you're never going to take them to court. It's going to be more expensive and all of that. What you do is you say, if I'm going to write down all the names of the people I give you. If for whatever reason you leave within 2 years, you owe me a 35% referral fee. That is the way to handle it. So you put something in place right away so that you don't have to do that.